Learning on Bava Kama Daf. Today's daf Sunday is daf Yud Amud Aleph. We're actually up to the Gemara toward the bottom of the page, the two dots. A Mishnah said that Ichshart b'miktzah nizkai. Sometimes you only do part of the nezek and you're responsible for the entire damage. Tell about me learned. What exactly does the Mishnah mean? We learned. If you did part of the damage, I have to pay for the damage because if I did the entire damage. What are we talking about? If somebody dug a hole that's 9 tefachim deep, which is only suitable for damages. Came along another person, dug it one more tefach. Now it's suitable to kill. The second person is chayiv, even though one tefach doesn't kill, but you take the tefach and the aggregate 9 and 1, so therefore, even though he only did part of the hezek, he's totally liable. And this does not follow Rebbe. Why? The Tanya we learned in one guy did 9, the other guy did 10. The other one is chayiv. Rebbe says, if the animal died, then you're right. Then the only one who killed him was the one who made the 10th tefach. So he pays for all of it. But if the animal merely got damaged, since they both contributed, they're both liable. So therefore, if you follow the Chachamim, here we have a case partial damage, and you're totally responsible. Papa says lemisa did hakol. Doesn't have to be that way. It could even be talking about the animal died. If the animal died, even Rebbe agrees that the second person, the one who only did one tefach, is liable. Ikadam, the others say lemed like Rebbe. It was asked as a question. Maybe it's not like Rebbe. Yes, it could be like Rebbe. He's talking about the animal died, and then everyone agrees the second person is the one who killed him. Maskell, now I'm going to ask another question. Why don't we include other examples where a person did a partial nezik and you pay for the whole amount? For example, Maskell, after two lectures, there's no other case. There is, and there's no bright, so this is just logic. You gave your animal to 5 people who partial by to watch, to mind, and one of them was negligent, he caused damage. So even though he only did part of the damage, nevertheless, he's chayiv. No, doesn't make sense. Hey, Chidami, what exactly is the case? If the animal would not have been guarded out in him, then pshita, then surely he did the entire damage, didn't do part of the damage, but with him it would have been totally watched. And now, because he didn't watch, the animal can't be watched. So he did all the damage. You covered. He did all of it. But unless what? Without him, it also would not have been. Without him, it would have been watched. Anyway, he could have been watched by the 4. You don't need him. Then Micah Ovid, what did he do? And according to everyone else should be responsible. According to Taisus, it means only that he shoulders responsibility with everybody else. According to Rashi, he shouldn't be reliable at all. So therefore, there's no partial damage in. Another case, there is let's say there's a fire, somebody lit a fire, and everything else. You add some more wood to it, and again, you only did part of it, and now that fire travels, and you're liable. Again, hechidami. The fire would not have traveled without you. It's obvious. Unless without you, it would have traveled anyway. Then surely, if without you, it would not have traveled. You did all the damage, not part of the damage. Pshita is talking about the fire would have gone without you anyway. So what did you do, my cover? What did you do? So what did you do? In other words, according to Taisus, you should shoulder responsibility with everybody else. According to Rashi, it seems that you didn't do anything. You shouldn't be liable at all. Master the Papa said, "Oh, but I have a brisa. These two are logical things, but I have a brisa. How did we learn? Hey, 5 people shared a bench. They didn't break it. Ubayach came along, another person, the Yoshua, broke it. And the last person, he broke it. Who's responsible? Only the last person. Papa Barabba. Talking about a heavy person like Papa Barabba. And so therefore he broke it. Now again, let's understand this. But if it would not have broken without in the pshita, he did all the damage. Elo the Balavi Unami, but would have broken anyway. So Micah of it, what did he do? Either he should be totally exempt, or at least he should be equally responsible to everybody else. So we say again, that's why he doesn't mention it, because it's full responsibility and not a partial. More is fine, but let's understand the brisa. How in the world are you going to learn pshat in the Mishnah? The question you asked is a good question. Either it's obvious or you shouldn't be liable at all. So the Gemara, this is the only price that we had from all of these cases. It says the Gemara, let's say without you would have broken anyway, but it would have taken longer. Now broken 1 hour. The Amalei, they say to him, look, if not for you, we would have stood up and they would have broken. Have a Yasvinan, Fei put us had a little bit more, but Kayami, we would have stood up. And therefore, you are liable. Why can't he say to them, if not for you, I would have sat there alone. It wouldn't have broken if I was there on my own. You guys contributed. Like we're talking about the case, he leaned on them and they couldn't get up. And therefore, you're responsible. So he did all the damage. Of course, he's responsible solely. No, I thought maybe he's just a cause because he didn't sit on the bench. He leaned on them. We say that his koich is like he himself did it. If his body breaks, his koich also breaks. Okay, interesting. There's a whole discussion on the Taisa Kohen Papa Barabba. Why does it have to mention that Papa Barabba was very heavy? Because it is a public park bench and you sat on it and you broke, says Taisa, you're exempt. Because that was the benches for. The benches for the public to sit, and you sat. So it's called a Mesa Machmas Malach, like you're a borrower and you are exempt. But a person like Papa Barabba who is extremely heavy, the park bench is not meant for him. He shouldn't have sat. And then when it says that if you wouldn't have if you wouldn't have sat, you would be responsible. If you wouldn't have sat, you'd be responsible. Then it was said. If you wouldn't have. It says there that the other guy would have stood up. The other 4 people would have been chai. It must be that all of them were heavy, according to one opinion. And another in terms of the reason why I mentioned Papa Rabbi is that that's why we say that his koyach is like his goof did it as well, because he was so heavy and he did not let them stand up. Any other person, if he leaned on them, they should have gotten up. They could have forced themselves to get up. Says about it further. There's another case. Isn't there? How time we learned? If 10 people stood there and they hit you with 10 sticks, whether they hit you one after another or in succession or together, cool up, they're all exempt. They're all exempt because each one only did partial. And if you say this says the last person is chayiv, even though it's a building, it's an aggregate, and he's the one who killed him. So we see clear from here, the last person did only a partial damage, and yet he's liable. Says the Gemara, first of all, we're not talking about death, we're talking about damages. Number 1. Number 2, if you say about talking about an argument. We said before that our mission is not one opinion is our mission is not like Rebbe, not like Republican that does. So the Gemara says the if we don't follow Rebbe but we follow the majority, that's not a problem. It's a problem is say that but say that we don't say. Doesn't say I'm responsible for the nezek. It says it says that I am responsible which means I have to make up the nezek. What does it mean? It means I can give you the carcass and then make up the difference. That the owners keep the carcass. How do you know that? How do you know that the perpetrator of the crime has the right to say to the victim, keep the carcass and I'll supplement and I'll pay the difference? If you hit the animal, you should pay. Don't say pay, you should make it up. When it says yishalim, we say yishalim means pay. But over here, when it says yashli mena, it sounds like you're paying the animal itself. And that's impossible because the animal is dead. It must be you give the carcass and then the difference. The following passage is by Shem Esacher. It says by Shem Esacher that if, let's say, for example, the animal was torn apart by a wolf or something, and Shem Esacher is parted from Einzin, but it's chayiv and geneva and all those other things. In a case where it be chayiv. Ad hatreifa lo yishalom. That until the treifa lo yishalom, so we dashen ad treifa yishalom. So if that's lo yishalom, we dashen till the treifa knows the difference between the carcass and the full amount he pays, but not the carcass itself. Chizki says mahacha, not from Shem Esacher, not from damaging an animal. From here, it says by meisi eloi. It says in the pasuk that by your animal gores, and you didn't watch it properly, you have to pay. And an animal for an animal. What do you have to add? The nizik, it goes to the victim. The victim and the carcass goes to the victim. The nizik goes to the victim. Maybe means to the perpetrator of the crime. He keeps it and he has to pay the full amount. It can't be. It can be. I'm going to buy if you're going to say in the veil of the mazik have that the carcass belongs to the mazik and has to pay the full amount, then just say you have to pay an animal for an animal. The lishtik what do you need in the world? You need v'hamesi eloi. What does that add? The mace goes to who? To the victim. We need all three psukim. Because if it says they're hitting an animal, it's not common. Because it's not common, therefore maybe the carcass goes to the victim. And you just pay the difference. I would say for the shkicha, but it's common for a wolf to attack the sheep. A malai. Then maybe there you have to pay the full amount. If he tells no, you didn't do anything. The wolves came and attacked. But if you hit an animal to be a daim, it's your fault. Maybe we shouldn't be lenient and let you pay back with the carcass. These two this is not common. Hitting an animal, and this is the wolves did it. Your animal going and goring is more common than not. Since your animal did it deliberately, as if you did it deliberately, maybe not. Maybe that you cannot be lenient and let him pay with the carcass. You didn't do the damage, it's only possessions. Here you did it yourself. Even as a shame, you were negligent, so you did it, you're personally liable. Maybe no, if you need it. Can I ask Rav a brilliant question? You tell me that the pasuk of Amesi Eloi, so the carcass moves over to the carcass goes to the victim. L'chayda, the mazik can pay with anything he wants. We learned before, Yoshev Filasub, even brand. So if the mazik owns his own carcasses, he can pay with carcasses. You need a pasuk to tell me I can tell the visitor keep your carcass and I'll pay the difference. Why is it worse than subin? El time it because Rahman of Amesi Eloi that the carcass goes to you. I would have thought the mazik the male belongs to the mazik. Hash the Israel day kamatreifes yoiv. He had his own carcass. He can give it on my Yosef even Bram the day meboyet. So if the carcass belongs to the victim, I can't tell you victim keep it. Know what the chiddush is. Normally, you want to come to the due day when the court convenes and they find you guilty, you have to pay. That's the value of the carcass. You can pay the carcasses for whatever you owe. But the chiddush there is, if let's say a month earlier it happened and you went to court a month later, and during that time, interim period, the carcass was devalued. Nevertheless, we go to the victim. We say we don't look at the value of today. Yesterday it was $100. Today it's 75. We look at it as if the mazik paid you 100. He pays the difference in 100 and whatever else he owes you. Says you want to lame, let us say tonight. It's actually an argument tonight. Time we learned in Todd of Hitler. Said you should bring it ad shvidashin. Yavi Adim. We say bring witnesses. Sheniftu for say that you're exempt of potter. Abashol dashins Yavi adudu lebezin. Bring the carcass to bezin. What do you bring the carcass to bezin? My love, Bahakam in this argument. Marsava pchas nevela the nizik have. I'm not arguing whether he has to pay for an oinus. Of course, you don't pay for an oinus. This we're saying. If let's say you were negligent, so you're a shemesacha, but you're responsible if you're negligent, so you have to pay. Bring the carcass to bezin, so we should assess it. Now, why do you have to assess it? If the din is that Yerusha whatever the value is today, you have to assess it. Assessing it what was worth a month ago. So Abishol holds that pchas nevela nizik. Let's see whatever was worth a month ago. That's what the nizik gets for it, and then you pay the difference. The first one who doesn't dash in this Tanakama saw the mazik have it. That is the mazik. Therefore, he pays it today. He's paying it today. We don't care what the value was a month ago. So anyone no proof. Maybe everyone agrees it belongs to nizik. You know what they're arguing in? They're arguing as actually who has to schlep the carcass from wherever it was the victim and bring it to the house of the nizik. That's the argument. And Abba Shol says you got to bring it. So the mazik has to schlep the carcass, and the Tanakama says no, it's the nizik has to do it. But Tanya, we actually learned, if let's say a bird falls on the shirt falls on the board, how do you know that the owner of the bird has to slap it out? He has to pay money, and we dash a mace as it full stop right afterwards, and you got to bring in the carcass. What are we talking about? Generally speaking, while it's in the bird, you have to hire workers to schlep it out, so it doesn't have much value. Once it's on top, it's 4 zuzim. It's pitarach with the natural. I need a pasuk to tell me that the owner of the bird should schlep it out. It's his benefit. By schlepping it out, it's worth more money. You can give it back to the victim. It's worth more money. Amalek says, Rabbi, no, it's possible. Sometimes it's worth a zuz in the hole and also on top. Because people say the Ha'amni Inche Keshura B'masa B'zuzah, a beam in the city is a zuz, but sometimes Shura B'dabra B'zuzah, Shura in the mid is also zuz, even though you have to schlep it along. So that's why you're the pasuk that it's the mazik that has to whether mazik is pulled out or whether the nizik. Okay, have a good day. We'll see you in Mitzvah Shem.